Hello and welcome back to the Stacey West YouTube or podcast, wherever it is that you're watching or listening to myself today. But I am, of course, not alone because we have got another preview, this time looking ahead to Reading on Saturday. Pretty big game for us Imps now. Those of you who can see the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, will be able to see that I'm joined by someone we had on earlier on in the season, Mr. Johnny Hunt. Johnny, how are we doing, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
Very, very well, thank you. I mean, obviously, it's very easy to be in quite a good position when you're a Lincoln City fan at the minute. Maybe less so Reading, but I think probably the best place to start is if we'd have offered you at this stage of the season to be sat 17th, 6 points above the drop zone, would you have taken that earlier on this year?
The way things have been, mate, to actually have a club existing is a bonus. But yeah, I think, if you look at where we were, and obviously, everyone knows about all the off-pitch stuff that's been going on with points deductions and the owner and everything else. But what it's done is actually kind of unified the fans and the team. We've had sort of since November, we've been on a fairly decent run of performances. Yeah, we lost to Bolton on Monday, but they're top of the table for a reason. It's one of those games, maybe a game too far. We've got a very small squad with a lot of young players in that have really gelled with Ruben Sellers, who, if he keeps us up, should be the unofficial manager of the season, I think, because and under all the circumstances that he's had to work, he's done an incredible job just to keep the team from not crumbling, which could have been easily done. We could be, we were bottom early on in the season, but he changed tactics, changed style, unified the team, and all the protests that were kind of including the abandoned game that stopped, and we focused on other things. But the team was allowed to get on with it, and they've been allowed to get on with it, and they've put in some great performances. To say 6 points above relegation is an achievement. It actually is for us. Where we've been as a club, and hopefully, it's been a pleasure to watch some really young players grow and develop as a team and as a unit against the odds. Which as a fan, as Reading fans, we've been wanting to see a sort of a team spirit like that for a long time, and it's great to have it back in such random circumstances.
No, absolutely. I mean, you picked up on something there that, I was going to ask a little bit later on, but you know what? We'll ask it now. Ruben Sellers. I mean, I was actually quite critical of him at one point this season, and I didn't think that it was the right job for him and he was the right man for Reading, because from the outside looking in, I think Ruben Sellers is a good head coach and he's a good young coach for the future and all of that. I just didn't really see that the situation that Reading were in was going to be the right one for him. And maybe you'd have needed somebody with a little bit more experience in the lower leagues that could just strip the team back to basics and build from there, sort of thing. But actually, Ruben Sellers has done that himself, hasn't he? And this is probably the best opportunity for him to be getting EFL experience, added on to what he's already got. So, I think we'll kind of ask that. Ruben Sellers, how pivotal has he been this season? And do you think you'd have had anywhere near as good of a job done if it wasn't for him?
Like the talk in the summer was that Chris Wilder was a done deal, and that was before all of the stuff that's come out about the club. Lewis Wing's wife spoke about it the other day. Basically, how people who were lied to at the club that come to the club, including I imagine Sellers. What he was sold as a dream job has certainly turned into a bit of a nightmare, with all the embargoes and the different things that, were thrown at him. And certainly, when we've spoken before, at the start of the season, we had Andy Carroll still playing for us then, but kind of quickly it became clear that he wasn't going to fit into the style of play. And Sellers kind of stuck with this very narrow kind of 4-2-2 sort of system, and it was his kind of trademark, I guess. When he was at Southampton, and was League One Championship, it's a different beast. You can't stick to one way of playing all the time. Especially when you haven't got the personnel to do that, and you literally have got players thrown in into a situation where, you know, you're hoping it works. But eventually, I think, he learned on the job. He's learned a lot, I think, about, how to deal with, the man management side of things, and, dealing with guys that, don't know if they're getting paid month to month. To be honest, if you can manage Reading this season, you can manage anyone in the circumstances. That's I think, the respect that he's got from people, because the people were critical of him, but he's learned from it, and he's put out a good young team there with, some real promising players, like, guys like Tyler Binden, who, nobody had heard of at the start of the season, but he's coming in. He looks like a season pro at the age of 18, 19. Obviously we've lost Nelson Abbey, was another local lad that went, and Tom Mack. That's the owners trying to asset strip the club. But, what we've still got is guys like Lewis Wing, who is a class player and who's really stepped up as a leader for the team. Sam Smith, Harvey Nibbs, Femi Aziz. We've got some real creative attacking threat, and we always look like we can score goals. The problem being is, occasionally, like Bolton, we kind of have a bad day at the office, because you've still got players, young players, learning their trade and trying to do what they do and make mistakes. And, a good team will punish those mistakes, and that's football, and that's the way it is. But then, I think, as a group and as a squad and as a manager, they learn from their mistakes, because you can see it when they're playing, that they don't, it's one game, and it's on himself. He looks at a game at a time, and be focusing now on Lincoln, which, as we know, will be a really tough game again. But they'll go into it with no fear, because that's what they're about. They've got the right attitude, and they've got they'll show Lincoln the respect that they deserve. But we'll also go and try and play our own game as well.
Now, you mentioned there, you can score goals. You've only scored 2 less than us this season, and okay, we've had issues certain parts of the season with scoring, but obviously it's certainly picked up a little bit recently. But your goals in terms of defensively, the amount you've conceded is one of the highest in the division. I think it's 4th highest, if I'm not mistaken, on 62 goals conceded. Is that sort of symbolic of your whole season? You've consistently been conceding a few a game, and you have to outscore your opponents rather than keep clean sheets? Or is it just the fact that you've had a few games similar to Monday against Bolton, where you just concede quite a lot?
Yeah, it's where the team's at. There's always going to be games, I think, where we get a young team, they're going to get over. And then, in that game, even up till half time, when, Bolton were all over us, and then they scored, but then we got an equaliser, but then, we gave a penalty away in the 4th minute of injury time. Got into that game 1-1 at half time. Maybe it's a different story the second half. That, you lose that goal, and then they get a third, a few minutes after half time. That's when you're going to struggle. Then Bolton can relax pretty much and play their game. But, we were still in the game. We were still competitive, and that's the thing, that there's the spirits there, even with results like that. And, and earlier on in the season, when, a lot of the poorer performances were when we had the different kind of system. And, we've changed keeper as well. Button's been dropped the last few, which kind of up to Monday was working. I think that made more of an effective team because of his the way of playing out from the back. Hopefully, for Saturday's game, Yeardon will be back starting. I think, some of his experience is vital for us in a game like this. But look, it's what it is. I'm never going to throw players under the bus for what's going on at Reading, because it's a horrendous time, for any young professional to be, having to play, players that are playing out of position. When you've got a small squad, you're literally chucking the same guys out each week to play. There's not a lot of rest period. There's not a lot of opportunities to rotate. So they're going to get almost like, Monday was like a game too far in that respect. But that's what's going to happen. That's where we're at as a club. And I think most fans are realistic of what it is. All our aim is for this season is to stay up, and hopefully, new owners will come in, and then finally we could hopefully start looking ahead as a club and having some of these, these great young players and potential players as part of the future of the club.
Absolutely, there's clearly a sort of process there for building for the future. But I think that kind of leads us in pretty perfectly. You know, you've spoken quite positively about some of the situations on the pitch, alluded to some of the situations off the pitch. It'd be remiss of me to not ask about the current situation at Reading. I mean, look, it's a whirlwind, obviously, even from the outside looking in. I can't imagine what it's like being a Reading fan at the moment. But there are news stories every week saying that a takeover is close and then a takeover isn't. Obviously, we had the whole issue with the training pitch, which then couldn't be sold because of issues in the planning permission, saying it only was exclusive to Reading and all of this. So it's an absolute merry-go-round. Where do we stand at the minute in terms of De Jong going away?
I say it's never boring, that's for sure.
One way to look at it.
Yeah, look at, you know, they announced a week ago, last Tuesday, that the exclusivity, I think I've got that right with my teeth in, between him and prospective owner. So that now kind of goes down to like a 6 to 8 week process, as far as I know. I'm not, you know, in the financial world, but where they have to do their due diligence and all the, you know, all the things that they have to go through. And I think, you know, this time round, the EFL are going to have to be super, super, super vigilant, because they can't afford to stuff this up after what happened with De Jong. You know, that's the biggest hurdle, I think. You know, and hopefully, you know, and I think part of that is that the security of the wages are being paid for the rest of the seasons coming from the prospective new owner, which, you know, there was this shortfall of about $1 million. I think they was looking at in March for the, you know, the things to be paid. That, I think, is being covered by this. So at least, you know, the players can just focus on the pitch and the games now for the rest of the season. Hopefully, it gets done. I still, you know, with my slightly negative thought process that this owner's, you know, he keeps moving the goalposts on different things. Is he going to do this on this? I'd hope not. And I really hope that it's time to, you know, say goodbye, good riddance, and we can have our club back and we can start looking forward to a new exciting future.
Well, let's obviously hope that can happen sooner rather than later for your guys' sake, absolutely. And, you know, you can get in that position where we're fighting each other on a level playing field, albeit hopefully one division apart next season. And that kind of leads me into the next question. I mean, I've got 2 more questions to ask, and they're both sort of questions looking ahead. A couple of prediction questions for you, Johnny. First of all, looking ahead to the game on Saturday. We are now back to Saturday, Tuesday, rather than Friday and Monday. Looking ahead to Saturday, how do you see the game going? And then put a scoreline on it.
I think it's going to be tough. I think, you know, Lincoln on an insane one. Is it 15 games without defeat? 14, 15 games. But it's, you know, a run like that has to end sometime. You know, that's the way I look at, you know, and why not Saturday? I think the atmosphere is going to be good. I think there's a good away support going to be at the game. I think, you know, the way that the game starts off, you know, Lincoln will probably come out quick. And I think Reading may, you know, just have to hang in there for a little while and, you know, and get their foot in the game and be positive and not be passive and you know, and sit back. You know, you guys score goals left, right, centre. I think us sitting there hoping that we're going to, you know, hold on for a clean sheet is probably not the mindset. It probably is to go out there and say, you know, let's score more goals. Let's get, you know, try and get the first goal, put the pressure on. You know, we need the leaders on the pitch to stand up. We need the fans to back it. Realistically, I would, you know, a point would be brilliant. I think at the way things are, you know, for us. But being super positive, I think we'll win 3-1. You have to be positive. After all this season of being a Reading fan, you go, look, what the heck? Let's just chuck it out there. But yeah, look, heart says 3-1, head says 1-1.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to counter that, and I'm going to go with a Lincoln 2-0. I think it's going to be a very no. Do you know what? 2-1.
Oh, thanks for giving us a goal.
I think, do you know, I won't be surprised. I think it's going to be a really, really difficult game. In fact, it's one of the games in this running that I'm actually scared of the most, is going and facing you guys at the Majeski. So I'm a little bit worried about that. But I am going to go for a 2-1 Lincoln victory just because of the way we've been recently. Although, you know, a draw isn't exactly too bad. On that note then, Lincoln, can we make the playoffs
Yeah, I think so. I always think, you're looking at clubs that hit the playoffs coming into form. I know we're, a few games away from that point, and hopefully you've not peaked too early, but you will peak too early for Saturday, lose, and then go on another run again after that.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, we'll have one and you can have the rest. But I think, you look at the teams in the playoffs picture that have been around, that pretty much a lot of the season, your Bolton, who else is up there? I'm thinking of other sides. Help me out here.
So obviously Bolton are currently in third, then Barnsley and Peterborough.
Yeah, Barnsley, Peterborough, the sides that have all been around, quite a while, whereas you're the kind of, there's clubs like, sort of Oxford that have been around there and kind of faltering, whereas you're on this run. And I think, the team that always hits the playoffs in form is, a good chance of going up, because, everything is, when you're playing like that, you just turn up for the games this time of the season, isn't it? The training and the fitness and everything else is there. It's now basically focusing on each team that you got. And I don't know, the rest of your running, but I would be very surprised if Lincoln don't make it. Then it's the lottery of playoffs. But there's no one, I don't think, in that, on their day, anyone can beat anyone. There's some big clubs there, but Lincoln have beaten a lot of sides and easily, and score goals and defend well. So from a neutral, not a Reading point of view, that I do think so, but it just hopefully will have a big blip on Saturday. There you go. I'm trying to please everyone there.
No. Look, I'm willing to accept losing on Saturday, providing we can guarantee still being in the playoffs by the end of the season, and obviously still doing it on a decent run of form. So yeah, no, look, we'll agree to that. It's fine, not an issue. Look, absolutely, and obviously wish you guys all of the best for obviously the rest of this season, and obviously after Saturday, and for next season as well. And just the future of Reading Football Club. Thank you so much for joining me, Johnny. I'll give you the floor for half a minute or whatever to plug what you guys are doing.
Look, the main thing at the minute is the Talking Royals, which is our online peer-to-peer sort of mental health support. We've had a few players on there, Graham Murty and Dylan Kerr. We've also got Dave Kitson coming on to join us, and we've had the Samaritans on from Reading. But it's not, any fan from any club can join us. That to me is a big thing. And on Saturday we're actually having our first online, in-person Talking Royals at the Jazz Cafe up at Reading there before the game. It's just a way, especially with the way things are in the world, and especially with Reading, with the football club and the mental health aspect of it, it's important to me, and to get it out there and to try and support each other, especially football fans. We're all in it together, and to help each other, and and see what else comes. Obviously, with the Real EFL podcast as well, which is a good plug for there, because we were part of that, which is good fun. It was really enjoyable. And apart from that, let's bring on Saturday and see what happens.
Too right, absolutely. Thanks so much for joining me, Johnny, and everyone else. Thank you so much for watching Up the Imps.